It's been 12 months since acquittal, and so much has passed us by. Such a scattering with evidence, and some blatant flat-out lies. Special new press sector, and Hank Breeden is his name. He is a dirty Boston lawyer, and his arguments are lame. He's trying to squash all of our experts, as he has no case to claim. He should have won an Oscar medal to convince the court he's sane. He can lie without a conscience and keep that smirk upon his face. I bet he wears those silky undies, the ones with that jean made of lace. And Judge Beverly Academy is so biased for the state, is waiting through 100 motions in a rush to seal my fate. So you can bring in Massachusetts, cause we all ain't got no quit. And we all know that the truth is my car is not the thing John hit.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McCabe, as a matter of housekeeping, I wanted to show you a quick set of documents that you saw yesterday, but I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing with the court's permission there.
Sure.
Same page document you saw yesterday. Can you just take a look at that and tell me if that appears to be the same set of documents that we talked about yesterday that included the group chats, for lack of a better phrase?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't mean to rush you.
That's it.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that this set of group chats that have been authenticated be moved, marked and moved into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
May I approach?
Yes. Exhibit 98 from the record. Does that cover more than what you covered yesterday?
Exact same document. I just failed to do it yesterday. My fault.
All right. So is there still more? I'm just curious if my form's different then.
Yours should be the exact same.
Why don't I take a look at the exhibit, please? Why don't you come to sidebar, please?
A couple of hours after the incident in question.
Correct.
Okay. Sergeant Lank came with Sergeant Gallagher, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Came back to the location at 34 Fairview and gave you an opportunity to provide whatever information you deemed relevant at that time to impart to him, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that at that time you didn't tell Sergeant Lank that my client said, I hit him? What you said was that my client said, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Incident report page. It's like the second to the last or third to the last page. It's my incident report. Could you take a look at that report, just the face page, and tell me if that appears to be an incident report associated with this case? I know you didn't draft it, but you recognize that that's an incident report from the police, Canton Police specifically.
Yes.
Could you turn to the tab that's the little light blue tab, maybe 3 pages from the end of that report?
Yes.
I'd like you to read that paragraph to yourself, if you wouldn't mind, please. Do you have that in mind?
I do, yes.
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. What you read just now appears to be a report of the incident in which Sergeant Lank came back to 34 Fairview to give you an opportunity to tell him whatever it was that you thought was important, correct?
Was that a full report or was that just an excerpt from it,
Well,
that paragraph?
That right there is a full report of that incident of Sergeant Lank going back to 34 Fairview. Would you agree?
Well, that's not a full report of what I said, but if that's his full report, it's his full report.
Okay. And in this report, what he writes that you said to him,
Objection.
The objection sustained.
isn't it true that what you actually told Sergeant Lank when he returned is, that while driving around with her and Roberts looking for the victim, Ms. Reed said something to the effect of, quote, "I hope I didn't hit him," end quote. Isn't that what you told him?
Yes, because she said that when we were driving around.
And then you went on to say that, quote, she, Karen Reed, made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered, correct?
Correct.
And then you went on to say that you thought that Reed may have made these same statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure, meaning you were not sure, correct?
I was not sure if she made what the police officers may have heard. That report is his recollection. My recollection is I told him that she said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." And I told him that he should ask the responders if they heard that, because it was a great possibility that they heard it as well.
But none of that, you'll agree, you just read the report, none of that is in his report.
That's a very brief report.
I didn't ask you if it was brief. I asked you if it was in it, correct?
Correct.
And that's a report of a conversation that he had at 34 Fairview with you for the specific purpose of memorializing what you told him, correct?
Correct.
And what you told him, according to Sergeant Lank, is she said one phrase, "I hope I didn't hit him," correct?
That's what's in the report.
All right. And again, this was 2.5, 3 hours after the incident, not 2.5 years later, correct?
Correct.
Ms. McCabe, we talked yesterday about this unrecorded meeting that you had in front of Sergeant Lank's home on January 30th. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember the conversation, yes.
Have you had any other home visits with any other police officers involved in this case?
I went to drop off. It was not a visit. It was myself with Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off. There was no involvement of Mike Lank on this day.
Have you been to the home, the personal residence of any other police officer involved in this case? Ever?
Yes.
Tell me who.
Kevin Albert.
Who else?
I went to Elizabeth Proctor, the wife of Michael Proctor's house.
Who does Elizabeth Proctor live with?
Michael Proctor.
So you actually went to Michael Proctor's personal residence, didn't you?
I did, yes.
That was in September of what year?
23. I went over.
23.
Yes.
Why'd you go to Michael Proctor's house in September of 2023?
I met Elizabeth Proctor in approximately July or August of 2023. We are two mothers that are being viciously terrorized and harassed by social media. Things that were stated in this courtroom and allegations that were made have torn our lives upside down. We receive hate letters saying that they hope things.
Why? I know you want to give a narrative.
She gets to answer this, Mr. Jackson. The door's open.
Your Honor, she could answer the question why she went to the house as opposed to the narrative behind her motivation.
It sounds to me like she's explaining why she went to the house. The door was open, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead.
We receive letters, we receive emails, we receive calls. People drive by our house. There was a rolling rally outside of my house where people just screamed at us. They take pictures of our children. They took a picture of my daughter and put semen on it and said property of some named blogger that I think the defense is very familiar with. So that is why myself and Elizabeth Proctor got together. Michael Proctor was not home. We are two mothers trying to get through the unthinkable together.
So you were upset about the public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of John O'Keefe.
I was outraged because I am a state witness that is being tortured because of lies.
Because of public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of a police officer, correct?
No, it's a social media witch hunt.
I see. So you decided that the best way for you to address that angst that you were feeling is to go to the lead investigator's home, personal home, in this case, correct?
I went to visit Elizabeth Proctor. Michael Proctor was not home.
So just like when you went to when you went to Sergeant Lank's house and the only person you met with was his wife, when you went to Michael Proctor's house, your claim is the only person you met with was his wife.
I personally did not go to Mike Lanks. It was not Jen going to Michael Lanks. It was Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off, and I happened to be in the car with her. Elizabeth Proctor, I met with because we couldn't take the torture any longer.
And you were later asked about this unrecorded visit at Trooper Proctor's home by Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Can you remind me?
Sure. Did you have a conversation with a trooper by the name of Tully, who interviewed you specifically about your contact with Michael Proctor?
Could I see the report to refresh my memory?
Do you not remember having a conversation with Trooper Tully?
I've had many conversations over the last 2 years.
Trooper Tully?
Over the last 2 years with a number of troopers.
Okay. All I'm asking you is, and I've got a report that can refresh your recollection. I want to know, first of all, do you remember having a conversation about your relationship with Michael and Elizabeth Proctor with Trooper Tully?
I know I had a conversation with a trooper about it. I don't remember exactly which trooper.
Fair enough. May I approach?
Yes.
It's the multi-page report. I'm going to show you this page. Okay.
Thank you.
Take a look at the face page of that, read it to yourself. And then I'd ask you to turn to the tabbed page, which is paragraph 27.
Okay.
You have that in mind?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection, Ms. McCabe, that you had a conversation or an interview, formal interview, with Trooper Tully about your relationship with Elizabeth and Michael Proctor?
Yes.
And you told, actually, let me back up for a second. Okay, was that somewhere in the vicinity of September, late September, early October, when you had that conversation?
Is there a date on it?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
There's a date stamp on the bottom. Take a look at that date stamp on the bottom and tell me if that refreshes your recollection of about the time that that conversation would have taken place.
Well, the date stamp on the bottom is when it was, I'm assuming, entered into evidence,
Right.
but that doesn't say when the interview itself was.
Right. So if you'll agree with me, you know that you had the meeting with at Elizabeth and Michael Proctor's home sometime in September 2023, correct?
Correct.
If that's dated October of 2023, that's what I'm trying to get to. I don't know the date because it's not dated.
So I don't either.
So do you think it was between September and October?
It must have been.
Had to have been, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to that, I've got a couple of other questions. You had, at some point, multiple phone calls with Michael Proctor after January 29th, 2022, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember all the phone calls that you had with him?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a log of your phone calls?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes. Is this the, what was marked 00 or
It's
00
not.
this morning?
That will be next.
Okay.
This is just a full paragraph. One to the tab. Highlighted.
Thank you.
Take a look at that and tell me if you specifically, there's a lot of calls there. There are blue tabs. If you could look at those blue tabs and then tell me when you've taken a look at those.
Okay. Okay.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Having looked at this set of records, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of the phone calls that you shared with Michael Proctor at some point on and after January 29th?
Yes.
Just to summarize those, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a call on the 29th at 10:55 a.m. with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
There was a call on the 29th at 12:49 p.m., correct?
I didn't memorize them.
I understand. Would you?
So if you want to give me the paper back, then I could probably answer correctly.
You want to
Okay.
do it that way, we certainly can. May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First call, January 29th, 10:55 a.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Correct.
Next tab, January 29th, 12:49 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Correct.
January 30th at 9:51 a.m. You called Trooper Proctor, 4-second call, probably a voicemail or something.
Correct.
January 30th, a minute later, 9:52 a.m. You then called Trooper Proctor again, 21 minutes and 31 seconds for that call.
Correct.
January 30th, same day, 4:45 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Correct.
January 31st, the next day at 11:51 a.m. You call Trooper Proctor for 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Correct.
That is the sum of those call logs, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach?
Yes.
Those aren't all the calls that you had with Trooper Proctor. That didn't stop. It's just where these logs stop, correct?
I'd have to see my further call logs.
Do you believe that you've had additional phone calls with Trooper Proctor after that last call on the 31st?
I know I did in 2023.
Okay. In 2022, did you have additional phone calls with him?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at phone records.
May I have one, Your Honor?
Yes.
May we approach briefly?
Okay. Thank you, Tori.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. McCabe, I don't have the records in front of me. Maybe they'll be found before the end of our conversation. But in the meantime, for expedition, do you remember a call on February 14th with Trooper Proctor lasting about 17 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 17th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't know.
Do you remember a call on February 28th lasting about 2 minutes?
I don't recall. Again, it's hard.
I expect that your answer is going to be, I don't recall, but I want to make a record if I could. So this is not a test of your memory at this point. I don't expect you to have it memorized. I just want to ask if maybe one of these stand out in your mind, or all of them. What about a second call on February 28th lasting about a minute?
Don't recall.
On March 1st, another call with Trooper Proctor lasting about a minute.
I do not recall.
Apparently a second call on March 1st lasting about 2 minutes and a few seconds.
I don't recall.
On March 11th, another call in the afternoon lasting about 12 minutes.
I don't recall.
And finally, a call toward the end of March, March 29th, lasting about 4 minutes.
Again, I don't recall.
Okay, understood that this is not a memory test, and I don't have the records in front of me, so I apologize about that. Based on the conversation that we've just had, does that jog your memory that you had multiple calls in February and March with Trooper Proctor, as well as the calls we've gone over with the records in January?
To be honest, I had calls with many people. I was in a state of shock for months following this. So if you have the record, I can answer off of that. But besides that, just reading them to me does not jog my memory. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea. I don't want to hold you to a number. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea that you had multiple calls with Trooper Proctor in January, in February, in March, correct?
Well, the ones I've just saw on the record, yes, there were multiple calls there.
And of course, you met him in your home on January 29th.
Yes, I did.
And he came into your living room. You had a conversation with him.
In my dining room, yes.
I'm sorry, your dining room.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Kerry Roberts was there
Kerry Roberts was not there.
on the 29th.
Kerry Roberts was not at my house on the 29th. No.
When was she at your house when she was interviewed?
I believe that was the Tuesday, whatever the date was.
Maybe first? That sound right? First or second?
Yeah, something. It was the Tuesday following.
Okay. And was that with Trooper Proctor or a different trooper?
A different trooper.
And with Trooper Proctor on the 29th, when he was interviewing you in your dining room, that was the day that Brian Albert was also there.
Correct.
And was Brian Albert also interviewed on that day?
I believe so.
So Trooper Proctor was in your house for, gosh, it had to have been an hour.
I'm not sure. After I interviewed, I went upstairs and then my children started waking up and I was tied upstairs for a while. I'm not sure when or how long he was there.
But your memory is clear that not only did you meet Trooper Proctor on that day, you had a full conversation with him. It was in your house, that was in your kitchen, in your dining room, and another witness was interviewed by Trooper Proctor in your home as well.
Correct.
And then you had multiple conversations with him in January on that day, the day after, and the day after that. You've already seen those records, correct?
Yes, correct.
Then in either September or October, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That's the report that you've already seen.
Correct.
And in that interview, you were asked specifically whether or not you had a relationship with Trooper Proctor and when that relationship started, correct?
Correct.
And you said, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, correct?
I did not say that.
So yet again, this is another example of a trooper completely getting it wrong. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
In your view, did Lieutenant Tully get your statement wrong that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023?
Objection.
Is that true or is that wrong?
Lieutenant Tully knew I met Proctor prior to that because Proctor was the one who did the initial interview on January 29th.
Does it make you wonder why he wrote in his statement, quote, you've
Objection,
never
Your
met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023?
So the objection sustained.
If you indicated that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023, that would be a false statement, correct?
Objection.
You can answer that, Ms. McCabe.
I met Proctor January 29th. It's
a false
everywhere.
statement. If you said it, would it have been false? That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
On January 29th, in the early morning hours, I want to take you all the way back to 1:30, 1:45 a.m. when you left 34 Fairview on the 29th. After you dropped off the girls, where did you and Matt McCabe go?
We came home.
After you got home, you indicated that you went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
After you went upstairs, you indicated that you got on the phone.
Correct.
On your cell phone, correct? After you got on your cell phone, you indicated that you started searching for stuff.
Correct.
So if there's GPS, you've seen the forensic extraction or part of it, correct?
Which one are you referring to?
Phone. The forensic extraction of your phone.
I saw what you showed me yesterday from Celebrate.
That's what I mean.
Okay. I'm-
Part of it.
I saw, yeah, the phone calls. Yes.
Okay. You're aware that that extraction shows that you got home after 2 a.m. or so. So that would be generally correct.
Correct.
The Celebrate extraction shows from your Apple Health data that you actually went up a set of stairs. That would be accurate, correct?
Accurate.
The Celebrate data shows that you actually logged into your phone, did a login, either Face ID or a passcode, opened up the phone. That would be accurate.
Correct.
The Celebrate data shows that you were engaging with an app called Safari to engage some Google searches, correct?
Yes.
That would be generally accurate as well, correct?
Yes.
So after you opened up Safari, you indicated that you Google searched something about Ozone basketball. Is that right?
Yes.
That was sometime after 2 a.m., right?
Yes.
What was so important about Ozone basketball at 2 a.m. that it couldn't wait until the morning? Why did you search it then?
Well, first I was home, I was wide awake, and I had been texting about a basketball chat, and basketball was clearly on my mind. My daughter had been invited to join a team. I didn't know much about the team, so I just was like Googling to see, because the woman who had given my daughter the offer had wanted an answer.
So you say that the basketball was on your mind, correct?
Yes.
Was there anything else on your mind in that early morning hour time frame?
Don't believe so.
Ms. McCabe, if you wanted to know in general how long it takes for a human being to pass away because of exposure to extreme temperatures, right? If you wanted to know the answer to that, what would you Google search? What phrase would you use?
I'm not sure. All I recall is what the defendant asked me to Google in the morning.
If you wanted to know, I'm asking a different question.
Mhm.
If you personally wanted to know, how long does it take for a person to die of exposure due to extreme temperatures, what would you put in? What phrase would you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, we don't have to guess at the phrase that you would use if you wanted to know something about dying of hypothermia, do we? Did you actually Google searched it?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask that differently, please.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay. And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Correct. I was.
After 2.5 years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
There's so many lies
Okay,
and
there's no
misconceptions
question.
on social media.
No question.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Are you telling me you don't remember what Google search you put in?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking. And she was saying, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone? I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
How about,
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
and you literally, to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at her,
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
that morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this? Hoss long to die in cold. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been
Why
everywhere
does that sound so familiar?
because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out in social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it, that's not on me, is it?
I guess not.
I guess not. Hoss long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question, right?
No reason.
So say it. What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed Hoss long to die in cold, correct?
If you could show me it, I'd appreciate it.
You later Google searched. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
While she looks at that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
Of course, yes. I think we're back.
Thank you very much. Can you text Jimmy and tell him?
Take a look at that report and tell me if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes, it does.
Does that appear to be an accurate page from a Celebrite extraction from your phone?
It does.
Okay. May I have that back? I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
May I have that back for a second?
Yes.
Did you see this, the actual search phrase? Does
Yes.
that now refresh your recollection?
Yes.
But I'd like to have this marked as next in order. Exhibit, please.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Jim?
May I?
Yes. Is that, Madam Court Reporter? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small, Mr. Jason. You see this column
Yes.
Third column from the, actually it's the fourth column from the left, some dates, some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then you indicated that you did it again thereafter at 6:24, correct?
Correct.
At 6:24, you misspelled the phrase and you spelled it as follows: how long T-I die in C-I-K-D, correct?
Correct.
Now you claim that those two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. respectively, correct?
Objection.
Phrase it differently.
Sure. You've indicated under direct examination that these two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., right?
I don't know if I gave exact times, but I said it was in the morning and Karen had asked me to do it.
And you claimed that you searched it because Karen was screaming at you and yelling at you, Google hypothermia, and you Googled how long does it take for a person to die. I'm sorry, she said something like how long does it take for a person to die of hypothermia, and you Google searched it at 6:23 and 6:24. Is that right?
Again, I'm not sure about the exact times. I just did it after Karen asked me to do it.
Would you quarrel with the idea that those were about 30 seconds apart?
Okay.
And you're aware, Ms. McCabe, that both misspellings of that phrase result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Well, you Googled them, ma'am. You're looking on your phone and you Googled how long to die in cold and how long to die in CIKD. Both of those. You Googled them, right?
I did, yes.
And they result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I have no idea.
So my question to you is, why the two searches?
She was standing next to me screaming, shaking my hand. My hand was cold. I was trying to Google it. Obviously, maybe whatever came up first didn't make sense because I had some misspellings, so I did it again.
So Haslam to die in cold results in articles concerning dying of exposure, doesn't it?
We never got the chance to read it.
Well, you're the one, when you say we, who's we?
Karen and myself.
Well, you're the one holding the phone, Ms. McCabe.
Correct.
So you're looking down at your phone and you see exactly what comes up, correct?
I don't remember exactly what came up.
Well, what came up was something about dying of hypothermia, didn't it?
That's what she asked.
So why do it again? Why do it again, Ms. McCabe? You had the result. Why the second search?
I cannot answer that beyond telling you that my hands were frozen. She was shaking me and screaming at me.
And you see the time, let me scroll up, please. According to the Celebrate data, you see this first search that says Haslam to die in cold?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time.
You
No.
realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your phone, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 2:27, correct?
Again, absolutely not.
But you were nervous and you screwed it up. So the first search you made at 6:23 was Haslam to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
Well, you see the search right there, correct?
I see the search, but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning in 51 seconds.
Correct.
There's a second search, correct?
Correct.
And this one, at 6:24, it says Haslam to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, 18. I was up that grade. And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request of the defendant. Yes.
About 27 seconds apart, correct?
Yes.
But the reality is, your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 2:27. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrate will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then of those 3 searches, one of them ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
I never deleted any search.
Take a look at the Celebrate report, top search, and the column marked deleted. What do you see?
I see a yes.
Ms. McCabe, the reason you deleted that 2:27 a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in the cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
Objection.
I'll let you. Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not your family, is he?
Family and friends.
Is he
Objection.
not your...
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning, I did, yes.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m., which would implicate you and exonerate my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete a
That's not what I
search.
asked you. The one according to the Celebrate report that was deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
So I have your honor.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you.
May I approach briefly?
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Going back a little bit, you were asking questions about Life 360 application that you had on your phone. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with that app and familiar with sort of using that app to see where your children are at various times. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from your experience using that app, how accurate is it as far as location or time or anything in regard to it?
Pretty accurate, varying some of their locations and sometimes weather.
Have you ever had instances in which you were told someone was somewhere and they were not there?
Yes.
And you were asking questions about Ryan Nagel's truck, correct?
Yes.
And do you know, or did you on January 29th, 2022, did you know Ryan Nagel?
I did not.
Did you know what kind of vehicle he drove?
I did not.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Lally, please.
Do you know whether or not that was actually somebody else's truck?
I do not know.
Do you know whether or not on January 29th, 2022, Ryan Nagel had a friend named Ricky?
I do now.
But on the 29th, did you?
No.
On the 29th, did you have any idea what kind of vehicle he drove?
No.
This person you didn't know.
Right. Correct.
And when you looked outside as far as the truck was concerned, did you even see a truck?
I just saw lights, vehicle. I didn't focus much attention to what was over there.
So fair to say you weren't paying attention to a truck you didn't see, a person you didn't know that you had never seen before, correct?
Sustained as to that form.
Now, you were asked some questions about text between Ryan Nagel and Julie Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And as far as when those texts were sent, you don't know, do you?
Can you clarify?
Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel texted his sister Julie before he had even pulled onto Fairview Road?
They were texting at about his arrival.
Texting about his arrival, but do you know where Ryan Nagel was when he was texting Julie about his arrival?
I believe he was outside.
But you don't know. Is that fair to say?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel was on Cedar Crest or somewhere else when he texted Julie that he was about to arrive or that he was there?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you know that?
I don't know that, no.
As far as the defendant's motor vehicle and the truck that Mr. Nagel was in, did you see either of those vehicles arrive in front of Fairview?
Yes.
You saw them pull up.
No, actually, Are you asking if I saw them pulling up or if I saw when they arrived? I did not see them pulling up.
So at some point after they arrived, your attention was drawn outside.
Yes.
And when we're talking about you going to the door and looking outside, how long a period are you looking at?
Not long.
So would you describe it as either a glance or more of a, were you staring intently at the vehicle out in front of the house?
Objection.
Sustained.
How would you describe the manner in which you were looking out at the SUV in front of the house?
I would go to the front door. I look out. I saw the vehicle. I believe I sent a text and I went and sat back down.
Now, in any of those times that you went to the door, and do you know how many times you went to the door?
I don't know exactly.
At least twice, is that correct?
At least, yes.
Now, in those at least twice that you, well, at least twice that you saw the vehicle and once that you saw that the vehicle was gone, correct?
Yeah, so I guess actually it was more than twice because I saw the vehicle move as well.
And when you say as far as you saw the vehicle move, did you see the vehicle physically move, or it was in one place and then you came back later and it was in a different place?
It was in one place, and then when I came back, it was further up.
Now, at any of those points in time, did you took a glance out the storm door? Did you see anybody outside of the vehicle?
No,
Did you see inside of the vehicle?
no,
Did you see anybody outside other than Julie Nagel on the front lawn, the front walkway, or anything else?
no,
At any point in time while you were at 34 Fairview that night, did you see John O'Keefe?
no,
At any point in time when you texted John O'Keefe after you arrived at Fairview, did John O'Keefe respond?
no,
At any point in time after you arrived at Fairview, or after you hung up from the 12:18 a.m. call in which you were describing where 34 Fairview was in reference to Bella's house, did you ever hear from John O'Keefe ever again?
no,
And during that about 20-minute or so period of time when Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant's SUV is in front of the house, you never heard anything from John O'Keefe, correct?
correct.
And did that strike you as unusual as far as him not responding?
I thought it was strange, but then I thought that they just might have decided to go home or had gotten into a fight or Kaylee wanted him home.
Now, you're looking out through the storm door and you see the Lexus with its lights on, right?
Correct.
And from that area, the secondary area, up by the flagpole and the fire hydrant, that's the same area where you found John O'Keefe the next morning, correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that area, is there any lights as far as street lights or anything that you're aware of in that area?
No, it's a dark area in the corner of the lot.
Now, at any point in time, were you looking or were you expecting to see John's body on the lawn?
Absolutely not.
And fair to say that when you're looking in the dark, in the snow, from a storm door out towards a vehicle, not the same conditions as if you're standing in a courtroom or sitting in a courtroom today, about 10 feet away from somebody during the daytime with lights on, correct?
Correct.
In fact, when you go back to Fairview the next morning, and again, who was the person who requested or directed to go to Fairview?
Karen.
And so when you go to Fairview along with the defendant and Ms. Roberts at the defendant's direction, sometime around 6 a.m., when was it that you first saw Mr. O'Keefe?
I wasn't the one to first see him. Karen was.
So she's banging on the door, asking it to be let out. She goes directly over to the body, correct?
Correct.
And neither you nor Ms. Roberts, well, you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe on the lawn until after she did that, correct?
Correct.
And that was after you had already sort of driven a little bit past where he was, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to you get home from Fairview around 2 a.m. or somewhere in that time frame, you go up to bed and you do some searches on your phone, correct?
Correct.
And so there's a Safari tab or application on your phone. That's where you access Google.
Yes.
Is that typically where you would access Google?
Yes.
And you were looking at Ozone basketball. You're also looking at Hockomock. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
What, if anything else, were you looking at beyond the Ozone basketball you talked about?
We had an exciting game earlier in the night against a local town that has a very good basketball program. So I went on Hockomock Sports to look at the recap, and typically I'll do that to see how other teams did, etc.
And around that same time, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, within when you did that, as far as looking things up on Google, were you opening up new tabs within Safari as you were looking at different websites or different topics?
No.
And when you went to bed or you went to sleep that evening, at some point you turned off your phone, right?
Correct.
And did you X out that box, that Safari tab that you were doing those searches with regard to Ozone and Hockomock?
No, I used to always leave my tabs open and my kids would yell at me.
As far as having multiple tabs open, is that correct?
Drains my battery, etc. Yes.
So then flash forward to sometime after 6 a.m., you're on the side of the road and the defendant asks you to conduct or look up something with regard to hypothermia or how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
When you open that up and you go into Google, did you open up a new tab or did you just sort of go into what you had already open in the Safari tab?
I went to what I already had opened.
And that's where you perform the search, is that right?
Excuse me?
That's where you perform the search that you were just being asked about?
Yes.
And you never made any search like that at 2:27 in the morning, correct?
I did not know.
Now, again, you've been shown what's been called a Cellbrite extraction report, correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how many Cellbrite extraction reports were conducted in reference to your phone?
I think a couple. I'm actually not sure.
And prior to January 29th, 2022, had you ever seen a Cellbrite extraction report?
No.
As you sit here today, do you even really know what that is?
Not really, no.
Do you know what a wall file is?
No.
Do you know what an SQLite database is?
No.
Do you know what a knowledge profile C database is?
No.
Do you know how information is stored and kept within your cell phone?
No.
Now, as far as, let me ask you this, you had 4 children and you were a mom, a homemaker, correct?
Correct.
At some point you did work though, right?
Yes.
What did you do for work?
I was an elementary school teacher.
What grade did you teach?
5th.
One question and we'll see where this goes.
What grade did you teach?
5th.
And how long did you teach 5th grade?
Objection.
Yeah, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar. Folks, feel free to stand up.
If I could take you back to 4:53 in the morning is when you get that first call from Kaylee Bush, is that correct?
Correct.
You answered that call and then the defendant is put on the line, correct?
Yes.
And so what is the first sort of iteration of the story that the defendant tells you happened the night before?
That they got into a fight. She left him at the waterfall and he never came home.
And at some point later, you confront her with that you saw the vehicle out front of the house, correct?
Correct.
And so then what is the defendant's story changed at that point?
That they went there and it changed multiple times. I'm not sure exactly. She said at one point, oh my God, I don't even remember going there. She was telling other people that he was dead, that a plow hit him. The story changed multiple times that morning.
Now, on cross-examination, you were playing a voicemail. Do you know whose phone that voicemail was from?
They never said no.
Fair to say that you're on 911 in the background of that phone call, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't your phone.
Correct.
And there's 2 other people beyond that as far as Ms. Roberts and the defendant there, correct?
Correct.
Was Kerry on the phone at all that you saw?
No.
And so with reference to the timing of that phone, you had called 911 and you were on the phone with 911 at the time that recording started, right?
Correct.
So you had gotten out of the car. You had gone around and then seen where the defendant had run over to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
As to the form, it's sustained.
What had you done before you placed that 911 call?
I got out of the car. I ran behind the car over to the body. I was in a state of shock for a couple of seconds. Kerry and I looked at each other and I said, I'm going to call 911.
And there was a period of time when you made the call before connected and you said you bounced around to different agencies, correct?
Yes.
And this is after the defendant has hit the door and run from the vehicle over to Mr. O'Keefe's phone, right?
Yes.
So it's not your phone and it's not Ms. Roberts' phone. The fair inference is the defendant's phone, correct?
Correct.
And so this phone call had been made or started recording at some point before you had even gotten out of the car, made your way over to Mr. O'Keefe, been in a state of shock for a few seconds, called 911, connected to 911. So at some point, it had to have been made in the car, correct?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Do you know when that voicemail or that recording that you heard, do you know when that call was placed?
I don't.
Now, at the time that you are making the 911 call, where is the defendant in relation to the vehicle?
She is over with Mr. O'Keefe.
You mentioned that the part beyond the 911 call where you heard yourself talking, you're at the rear of Ms. Roberts' vehicle.
Yes.
And why are you at the rear of Ms. Roberts' vehicle?
In the beginning, I'm at the rear gathering towels or blankets. And then a few times I go to the rear because I'm trying to speak with the 911 and Karen is screaming hysterically. And then Kerry starts screaming at her to calm down. It was quite chaotic. So I was moving away so that I could be clear with the operators.
Now, at some point you went into your sister's house at 34 Fairview, right?
Yes.
And why did you?
Officer Lank asked me to go in and wake them up.
So you were asked to go in there by the police to wake them up, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And at some point you indicated that you had called Officer Lang to come back to the house, right?
Yes.
And how did you get his number again?
Julie Albert.
And as far as, are you aware whether or not Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, or any of the other people that were present had Officer Lang's number?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why did you ask Julie Albert and not Brian Albert or Nicole Albert?
Because I knew she was the only one that had his number.
You were asked some questions about when you were on scene, and you indicated in your testimony on direct that you heard the defendant say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." Correct?
Yes.
You also early in your testimony had indicated that earlier in the morning the defendant had phrased that differently as far as could I have hit him or did I? Correct?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form.
You heard the defendant make a variety of statements over the course of the morning. Correct?
Yes.
And more to my point, as far as you recall testifying at another hearing under oath in June of 2020, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall being asked some questions specifically about this topic?
Objection.
Allowed. Okay.
Mr. John?
Yes, go ahead.
Now, Ms. McCabe, as I was asking before, in June of 2023, you testified in another proceeding, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked questions specifically about those statements that you heard the defendant say on the morning of January 20th, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall specifically what your testimony was in regard to that portion of your, in regard to those statements?
I don't recall specifics. I know what I know what I know. I know what happened.
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
Now I'm giving you 2 pages. Direct your attention to the bottom of the first page and then into the next page. If you could just review that yourself and look up.
The page again, Mr. Lally?
You're on 816 and 817.
Thank you.
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe, is your memory refreshed as to what you said in that prior proceeding in regard to those statements?
Yes.
What did you say?
What did I say in that? I told them that Karen looked straight at me and said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And I said that there was, I believe, an EMT that overheard as well.
Now, do you recall in that same prior proceeding being asked any questions sort of at different times, the defendant saying different iterations of that same statement?
Objection.
Sustained as to form. No leading, Mr. Lally.
With respect to that testimony in that same prior proceeding, what, if anything else, were you asked about statements the defendant made to you that morning?
I was asked what were some of the statements that Miss Reed had made. And it was like, repeat, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? I have a cracked taillight. And then I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
And so with respect to questions and as far as did I hit him or could I have hit him and the statement I hit him, those were at different times, correct?
Correct.
Now, you met with Trooper Proctor on January 29th, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that the first time that you had met him?
Correct.
And who, if anyone, was with him when you met?
I believe it was Trooper Yuri.
And subsequent to that date, did you meet with other troopers in the state?
Yes.
And by other troopers, I mean not Trooper Proctor and not Trooper Yuri.
Yes.
And with respect to meeting with other troopers, was it at that point that they had talked to you about taking your phone?
Correct.
And they asked you for your phone, is that correct?
I had shared my Life 360 and my Life 360 and my texts, and they asked if they could take a copy of my phone.
And did you agree to that?
I agreed to it. Yes.
And were you presented a form at all in regard to your agreeing to hand over your phone?
Yes.
And beyond what you had testified to earlier, as far as things to do, were there any limitations that you put on what they could look at or take from your phone?
No limitations.
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
I'm showing you a document and just ask you to look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
This was the consent form for my phone.
So that's the form you filled out with the troopers in regards to giving over your phone.
Correct.
May I approach again, Ron?
Yes.
I want the seat to submit as the next exhibit.
Is there an objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection.
Okay, thank you.
Exhibit 100.
Thank you.
Now, again, Ms. McCabe, initially following the events of initially that morning around 6 a.m. or so, at some point you were seeking or you had actually asked the defendant for Kerry Roberts' phone number, correct?
Yes.
And why is it that you were looking for Kerry's number specifically?
Well, the driving conditions were terrible. She was driving to Braintree to pick up Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe. And then they were heading to the hospital. And I was just looking to see how John was doing.
Now, you had mentioned at some point, did you speak to Ms. Roberts that morning in regard to updates as far as how John was doing?
Yes.
And you mentioned that later on, either that day or the next day, that you had gone over to Mr. O'Keefe's house with Ms. Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And who was driving at the time that you went over to the O'Keefe's house with Ms. Roberts?
Kerry was driving.
And so when you left the O'Keefe's house, where was it that you went?
Kerry went to drop her daughter off at her friend's house, the daughter of Mike Lank.
And you were just in the front passenger seat of that vehicle, correct?
Yes,
You had mentioned as far as getting together with Ms. Roberts at the request of someone to talk about a timeline, correct?
yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of how that came about or who was making that request?
Kerry called me and she told me that she had talked to Peggy, and Peggy had
No, I'm going to allow it.
suggested to Kerry, you guys should write a timeline. You don't want to forget anything, when the time comes, meaning when the trial comes, you don't want to forget anything that happened.
And just to be clear, when you say Peggy, who are you referring to?
Mrs. O'Keefe,
John's mother?
John's mother, correct?
Now, you were asked some questions about subsequent date as far as hearing bits and pieces or portions of Ms. Roberts' statement to troopers at your home, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whether or not that was the first time that Ms. Roberts had talked to troopers or officers or anyone from either the Canton Police or the State Police?
I believe on the 29th in the afternoon, troopers went to her house. So that would have been the first time.
So the time that she was at your home and speaking to troopers, that would have been at least the second time that she had spoken to troopers, correct?
Objection.
Sustain.
Now, with reference to Ms. Roberts and her phone, was Ms. Roberts, the time that you handed your phone over to the troopers, was Ms. Roberts present there as well?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you see Ms. Roberts do with respect to her phone and the troopers?
She turned her phone over as well and signed the consent.
Now, during that time, you had indicated that you had heard a statement that you said was horrified you in some way. Is that correct?
From Miss Roberts?
Yes.
Correct.
And what was that? What was she talking about?
Objection.
The door has been opened, Mr. Jackson. That means you can answer.
So basically, Kerry is a talker, and once she started,
I think just focus on
Okay.
what she said.
okay, she said something like, John really loved Amy, and in my eyes, Karen was just a babysitter with benefits.
And is that what made it memorable to you as far as what had transpired at that time?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you ever coordinate your statement or Ms. Roberts' statements with her prior to testifying at any hearing or any proceeding at any point in time?
No.
Let me ask you, when you came to the area of 34 Fairview Road around 6 a.m. And you saw Mr. O'Keefe, was he in the same clothes that you had seen him in earlier?
He had jeans and I believe the same shirt on, yes.
And nothing additional as far as a jacket or anything like that you saw?
Not that I recall.
Now, again, as you were driving down Fairview Road, if the defendant did not bang on the door and essentially jump out of the car and make a beeline over to Mr. O'Keefe, would you have stopped the car?
No.
Recall when you were leaving 34 Fairview Road earlier, as far as sometime between 1:30 and 1:45 when Mr. McCabe is driving. Do you recall whether or not the roads were plowed or treated or anything that you saw at that time?
I know there was snow on them, but I can't recall specifics.
Now, as far as the defendant coming over your house shortly after 5 a.m., was that something that you were expecting at the time?
No.
And what was it prior to the defendant showing up and sort of screaming in front of your house? What was your sort of plan as far as based on the information that Ms. Reed had called about?
My husband and I were going to go out and we were going to drive over to Tom Beatty's house to see if John was there.
Now, as far as the 911 call that you were making, that information that you were providing, what was that based on?
What I was seeing.
But as far as how Mr. O'Keefe had come to be there at 34 Fairview Road, when you're communicating any of that to the 911 operator or to officers on scene, was that from your observations when you were inside 34 Fairview after the waterfall or from some other source?
Well, it was from what Karen was saying as we were driving there.
So as far as him being dropped off or anything like that, that came from the defendant, correct?
Correct.
Now, as far as you had been asked and you had testified about going over to Trooper Proctor's house to meet with his wife, correct?
Correct.
and you testified about certain incidents of harassment that you had undergone, as well as Mrs. Proctor. Is that correct?
Correct.
How long had that been going on at that point?
At that point, it started in April, and now I believe I went over there in September.
And what, if anything, was the frequency of the harassment? Was it sporadic, or how often were you experiencing that?
Daily, sometimes hourly.
And in addition to what you've already testified to, what, if any, other incidents do you recall specifically involving either you or your children or your home?
People come by my house, they take video, they scream. They've gone to my child's sporting events and called me names. They've written letters to my daughter's colleges and said that they shouldn't allow them to play. And then they've attached these horrific articles that have been complete lies about all of us. They send me Facebook messages. They call my phone, home phone and cell phone, all hours of the night. They tell me to kill myself. They tell me I'm a terrible mother. They harass my children. My daughter testified here the other day. We didn't even get out of the building, and people were, saying horrendous things, that she's a liar. Your mother should die. It's just, it's unimaginable what my entire family is going through. I go to the beach, they take pictures, they post it, they threaten that there are eyes everywhere. I'll never be able to live a normal life again. I am a witness. That's all I am. I am not on trial. I am a witness. And these people are terrorizing me.
Stand as to that part. I'll strike that part. Everything else will stand.
Okay.
And so, your understanding that Mrs. Proctor had sustained similar issues as you had?
Correct.
Now, again, Trooper Michael Proctor never met him prior to January 29, 2022, correct?
I have never met him prior, no.
And the time that you went over to meet with Elizabeth Proctor, was Trooper Michael Proctor home at that time?
No, he was not home.
And had you ever been over to his house prior to that, or any time subsequent to that?
No, never.
Now, you did have some conversations with Trooper Proctor following this day and around let me ask you this. You testified a bit about a rolling round. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you describe to the jury sort of what that was, or what occurred on that day?
So that day in July, a group got together under one blogger, and they all met and they decided to go to different houses. So Michael Proctor had been made aware of what was happening. So he had reached out to tell me, what was going to be happening and how they had set up some cameras. It was a Saturday. I had just come home from vacation with my children and my husband. Mrs. O'Keefe picked up my two younger children and brought them out with her so they wouldn't be home for this. And my two older children and my husband were in the house while about, 50 to 75 people came to my house. They screamed, they yelled, "There's a murderer." They just caused an absolute ruckus outside.
And prior to that, did you have any conversations with Trooper Proctor or any other troopers from the state police about knowledge of that incident occurring prior to its occurrence?
Yes.
And as far as setting up sort of pole cameras around your house to memorialize whatever was going to happen?
Yes.
Now, you were asked some questions with regard to the Google search. Again, that was initiated after 6 a.m. Why again?
Because Miss Reed asked me to Google how long to die from hypothermia. She said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold. She was shaking me, screaming at me to do it.
And she's shaking you as you're typing, is that correct?
Correct.
And there are some misspellings in it, correct?
Correct. I also have MS and I have issues.
I'll allow that.
I have MS and I have, issues with my hand. So I a lot of times Google and make errors, but the cold also makes my hand go completely numb. So I'm not surprised that that's how it would come out.
When you were in your bedroom sometime after 2 a.m., fair to say that the defendant wasn't there shaking you when you were Google searching for ozone basketball or hockey mock?
Objection.
Sustain.
One moment, John.
Yes.
Nothing further on.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Concerning statement, I hit him. You gave a statement on January 29th to Sergeant Light. Called him over to specifically give him a statement, correct?
Correct.
Gave a statement the next day, later that day, Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday, with a trooper named Prince, correct?
Correct.
And then you testified in April of 2022, no fewer than 12 times about statements that you attributed to Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And in not one of those instances, not one, is there a report that says you said, she said, I hit him, correct?
Correct. Although I told Mike Lank.
Oh, we already know that the officers all got it wrong.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to that. Next question, please, Mr. Jackson.
So you indicate that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment that you just described, started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was around the time that there were public hearings concerning this Google search. Is that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Is that right?
I'm not sure exactly when the Google search came out.
But you do know that you started suffering this harassment that you claimed is awful and terrible, et cetera, around April of 2023. Is that right?
I didn't claim it's awful. It is awful.
Okay, I'm sure it is awful, Ms. McCabe. I'm sure it's terrible.
It
I'm
is.
sure it sucks to be harassed.
It really does.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, so that's sustained, and I'll strike it. Go ahead and ask a question, Mr. Jackson.
You were upset by April of 2023 that there was public outrage about your family being involved in the death of John O'Keefe. That's what you were upset about, correct?
I was upset that we as witnesses were being harassed.
You were upset about public outrage concerning this case, correct?
Objection.
Sustained, that was answered. Next question.
And 2 months later, in June of 2023, for the first time, you testified at another proceeding, and lo and behold, you attributed the words, I hit him, to my client, right?
Objection.
So ask that without the objectionable phrase.
2 months later, at another proceeding, in June of 2023, you attributed the statement, I hit him, to my client for the first time under oath, correct?
Under oath, correct.
You indicated when you turned your phone in, the police were perfectly okay with you deleting communications with your children, correct?
Correct.
Including Allie, who's a material witness in this trial.
Objection.
So part of that is objectionable, and I'll sustain that. So
You're aware that your daughter Allie was a witness in this case.
At the time, I was not aware of that, no.
No, but you did know that ultimately she was going to indicate that she drove Colin home, correct? You knew that at the time.
Objection.
that's sustained.
Did you know at the time that Allie had driven Colin home, or she said she drove him home?
I had no idea she drove him home.
But you deleted all those communications with Allie, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you delete all the communications that you had off your phone with Allie, your daughter?
Objection.
So this has already been answered, but go ahead, finish. Let's finish this loop. Did you delete them?
I deleted the conversations with my 4 daughters. At that time, Allie was not a witness.
All I asked you, you heard my question. Did you or did you not delete the communications with Allie McCabe?
Objection.
That's been answered.
You said that there was this statement that horrified you, your words, horrified you, that Kerry Roberts made during her interview that you were eavesdropping on, right?
I'm not sure if she made it during that interview. I'd have to look back to see when I said she told them everything in bold, because I know she had said it to me multiple times. So I'm not sure if it's when she said it in the interview or just in general. When she said, I told them everything, I told them, etc.
So when you said in that group chat, she's telling them everything, that might not even be what you're talking about.
No, it was.
And you said that horrified you, correct?
I didn't know Kerry Roberts. So yes, her statement horrified me.
Horrified you.
Yes, that was horrifying.
And in that group chat, your response to that horrifying statement was 3 words. I love it.
Was there a response prior to that?
You tell me, ma'am. I'm not the one under oath. You are.
Well, if you want to show me it again, I'd love to get.
Yesterday.
So do you have it handy, Mr. Jackson?
I don't, Your Honor. I'll grab it. It's marked. Okay. Your Honor, it's been marked and entered. It was the packet this morning that I did. That's it. May I approach?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Take a look at those 2 pages. If you would.
Could you tell me what pages, please?
169 and the second page, Ms. McCabe, if you wouldn't mind.
What's the second number, Ms. McCabe?
Number, the bottom right.
2170.
Thank you.
You have that in mind?
Yes, I do.
May I? Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. During that conversation, when you said she's telling them everything, that came right on the heels of your husband saying, this girl could write a book, or this woman could write a book or something like that, correct?
Correct. She talks nonstop.
Right. And then you said 2 texts down, she's telling them everything.
Correct.
The text just before that was, I love it.
That was in response to my husband saying this girl could write a book.
What's the next thing that you wrote to that group within a second of that?
She is telling them everything.
Right. May I approach the podium?
Sure.
Nowhere in that text chain did you say something along the lines of, oh my goodness, I'm so horrified, did you?
Those were on phone conversations.
Nowhere in those texts that you just saw did you say the words or write the words, I'm so horrified, did you?
No, because it was already spoken about.
You were asked on that morning, January 29th, 2022, as you drove to the location and ultimately to 34 Fairview. What ultimately happened? And your testimony was, as you approached, my client was searching frantically for John O'Keefe, correct?
I don't believe I said she was searching frantically for John O'Keefe.
Searching frantically.
She was screaming frantically in the back seat and texting in the back seat.
Was she just sitting there, curled up in the back seat, sucking her thumb, or was she searching out the window?
She was screaming
Right.
between Kerry and I. So I'm not really sure how she saw John over here when her head is up here screaming and then looking down and texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Ms. McCabe, to search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that trip was to look for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
Yes or no?
Fairview.
The whole point of the trip was to look for John, correct?
At 34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that if it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was
Yes or
there.
no?
She did.
Yes or no? Was that your statement? If she hadn't gotten out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped.
I don't believe it was stated like that. I believe there was a question and I answered.
And the question was, would you have stopped? And your answer was what?
What was the direct
Oh
question?
my goodness, Ms. McCabe, it was 5 minutes ago.
Right. Did he ask, did you see something? You like to change words. I just want to be certain.
So, Mr. Jackson, just keep it to questions, not comments.
You were asked just a second ago by Mr. Lally, if Karen Reed hadn't jumped out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Correct.